Hello, greetings, and welcome to a long awaited family Hearth circle that we are having and hosting via podcast. Today, we have with us Joseph and also a teammate, a family wellness partner who we're grateful to introduce. And her name is Cynthia Taylor. You'll be hearing more from her. I'll let her introduce herself. But really, we are popping in. It has been a while, and we wanted to, for some, introduce ourselves, and to others, it's kind of a reintroduction, perhaps. There's just been so much that has transpired. And so we welcome you for those who have been hanging in there with us throughout this journey of wellness and well being. And for us, it's been a family focus. We want to thank you. And for those who are new to our family, I would call it a startup, which is a podcast for families who are helping families and supporting them through their lived experiences around mental health, wellness, and also soul care, as my dear sister Cynthia calls it. So today is a special day in that we are also celebrating while Johnny is not here with us in person. He is alive and well, and we are actually celebrating his birthday by restarting this podcast on this day. With that, I will stop there and turn it over to Joseph, who's going to ask us a few questions just about our wellness journeys. The other piece I did want to mention, it not only being John's birthday today, but it is also BIPOC awareness, mental health awareness month. July is. So the focus is on the unique needs of those of us who fall into that category. So I want to, before I turn it over to Joseph, I want to give my teammate and prayer partner, Cynthia Taylor from Wellness Journey, an opportunity to just pop in and introduce herself, and may have some words that she might want to share around BIPOC mental health awareness and the need for it.
Thank you for having me. And again, I want to say, actually, on this day, July 23rd, a happy birthday to your loved one, Johnny. I think it's a perfect day to begin this conversation. I'm honored to be a part of it. So, what can I say? My name is, again, Cynthia Taylor, and I'm actually a social worker. I think I've been a social worker forever. Outside of work, I've always been a giver, and that comes from the soul. And I think that's where compassion, I'm a very compassionate person, and me going through my own personal wellness journey from starting when my mother passed away in April 30th, 2014, the grief journey, it really led me into really knowing personally what mental health was about and what some people are going through, and the possibility of others are going through even more challenging situations where they need the support of the community, and no one should be going through this alone and by themselves. So that's where my deep compassion started from. And just me, it's a journey of trying to find, I had originally started off with trying to find myself again, or getting back to myself. But I think once you go through a situation that's mental and or just kind of affects your heart, you never really go back to that original person. You just become better because you're aware now of what's going on, and the possibilities are open. And it's just needed to have these talks, these conversations, for the support, and now you can receive best practices from everyone else that has been through it and going through these challenges.
Yes.
And without feeling like this is something to hide. No one should feel like they're alone. And I think the best words that Jennifer Lewis has said, the best words that she stated going through her mental health was, "I need help."
Yes.
And so she's a good example that the success story is in a good outcome. And when saying those words, "I need help." So, and I'll end there.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, I appreciate you for just getting right to the question Joseph actually has for us. And you put us right on track, asking for help. And then you also mentioned compassion. Those were the two highlights of today's conversation we're going to be about. And I believe that it takes the self-compassion, the awareness that you need help, we need help, in order to, make that leap, that courageous leap to actually say the words. And Joseph, I thought I would allow you to pop in before I, kind of speak to that, those 2 points a little bit later. I'll put it on hold. Would you care to just introduce yourself briefly? And we'll give space now to your questions. Thank you, Cynthia.
My name is Joseph Blackman. I was born in Pittsburgh, California. That's my hometown. But through some unfortunate events, I had to move around from time to time quite a bit throughout my life, and ended up in Berkeley, California. So that's basically a summary of how I got here.
Playing football, JV?
I'm playing football for Berkeley High. Currently the JV squad, going into my sophomore year. But I don't really want to focus too much on that. That's not really the main aspect of this. It's mostly about my mom and what she wants to do with her podcast. I'm just coming along for the ride,
And mental health. Since you're coming along for the ride, youth, what would you say in terms of your peers? What are some things that are in the way or support them in terms of asking for help? And do you find that youth need more compassion, from adults or from one another?
I feel like it's just a little bit too lenient. I think it's became because things in the past that used to just be brushed off as are just taken much literally, in a sense, and it's kind of just demeaning, because stuff that I'm not saying that it shouldn't slide, but I'm just saying stuff that used to slide in the past, or stuff that was considered I would say just considered more soft in the past, has kind of come to a heightened area. So with younger teenagers and how teenagers, how we act, in terms of mental health, I think that is also impacted just by enforcement of rules and stuff like that, and you wonder why we break them. It's just more so we don't really see us in the picture of those rules and that type of thing. And another thing you were just asking and talking about was just the mental health and how we cope with ourselves, how should we treat ourselves better? I think we should treat our bodies better, definitely. I think it's more so in that aspect, but when it definitely comes to mental health, from what I've experienced from the people that I've really just hung around, some of us, we do need mental health care, I would say, but more so how we cope with our own mental health is just brushing it off, really. That's what, I even do it now in this situation. That's the best thing that works for me, because once you let it get in, you can't really get it out, and it just becomes a little too much. So if you keep it out, it's the best thing for you, because it keeps you on your grind, it keeps you on your goal, as long as you don't focus on it. And, most of my friends are on the football team. Some of them play other sports, but that's what I mean. Sports correlates with mental health a lot. It just keeps you, in a good headspace, stuff like that. I think I see a lot of it correlate into real life with me and like some of my other friends and people that I have met.
Beautiful.
You know?
You said a lot there. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I think the pushing it to the side, that's not just with youth. I think many of us adults do that, and it's powerful that you're even aware of that. And I do believe that because it, like you said, it almost becomes easier to deal with pushing it away than dealing with it. I just think that's good to even bring out, to note, again, to shine light on that. Because I believe that also becomes a barrier. It's almost like we're groomed to, not believe we need the help, and so you don't ask for the help, And so thank you for just, saying it out so plainly. I'll let you give us your questions, and I guess after that we'll start to wrap up. But I'll let you ask us the questions that you have for us.
My first question is, how has compassion impacted your journey, and why is it essential for healing?
Nice. Would you like to take that first, Miss Cynthia?
I think I probably, in my introduction, hit on it, but I'll probably just add to, compassion is definitely essential. It goes back to, I think I was saying, how to be compelled to help others and decrease the suffering that they're going through. And if they don't have that support, how would this be decreased, the suffering? And that's just kind of, I don't know, this question could go really deep. I was thinking of different qualities of compassion, how it could just be from a simple calls and check in on a person so they won't feel so alone. And during this conversation, you can kind of encourage that person to reach out for help. And just kind of like what Joseph said about it's important to take care of our bodies also with one that needs some help in areas, just moving our bodies and eating those healthy green leafy vegetables, from eating high antioxidant foods and blueberry and raspberries instead of just sugar and things that could increase our challenges that we're going through. And I just really think that's a good time for people just to transition into eating healthier.
Yes.
And just natural foods rather than processed foods. And we all worth it. We're worthy of having a healthy body. We're worthy of it. And once we get to that place to say, hey, I want to be happy. I want more. It's more to life than this, than me suffering by myself. And so
definitely.
Yes.
Definitely. Didn't mean to cut you off there. I was just resonating with how that connects with asking for help. That for some, that becomes the overwhelming thing. Oh my goodness, I do want to invest in my body. How do I do that? And I'm speaking of energetic investment, not just financial. But how do I do that? How do I create these new habits where I'm eating the leafy greens? Because right now, I am wanting the greens of that candy, you know what I mean? So, it's green Skittles, not something green. So, I think that becomes also a bridge for asking for help. To answer the question for myself, compassion has been major, right? I mean, major. And for me, the compassion journey opened me up to kindness to myself. And through that journey, I was able to trust God even greater and more, because me loving myself, me feeling compassionate for the things that I had been through, empathic for the things I had been through, it allowed me to experience the grace of God. And so it was really major. It was life transforming when I began to just like take baths in compassion, and how that looked for me, being someone who had a overactive thought process and highly hypercritical inner critic that would beat me up day and night and bully me with just horrible critical thoughts. And the compassion became a blanket of intervention for all of that. It felt like self-torment. And that was at the height of me making a decision to pull away from overworking. So, of course, those, intense feelings raised up because I was very vulnerable. I was doing something that my peers didn't do. So I, basically had to leave a workplace, and that was a community, that was a family. And so, I was vulnerable, and compassion became like the blanket to support my recovery and my healing. The other part of the question, I think it was why is it essential? What I learned about compassion is in working with, when it became time for me to be of service and to work with others who were on their recovery journey. A lot of them were in the faith-based arena at that time. I learned from one person in a support group that I was facilitating. She said until she gained compassion for her rape and sexual abuse and trauma, she noticed that any person who came into the church, she could not have any compassion on them. And I just thought that was so critical, what she noted. And then that from that point I learned, oh my God, it is so true. When we don't have the capacity to understand or have empathy for ourselves, then it just doesn't carry over. It doesn't carry over. So we wonder why some people are like, oh my God, they grew up without a father. Why are they, the father that's so mean? Well, if you don't have compassion for your own experience, then it's kind of like we become that thing. So that's how critical I believe compassion is when it comes to healing. Without it, it's literally like a hard heart will remain hardened. It's the compassion that allows that hardened heart to become flesh. So it's critical. And when we're talking about mental health and BIPOC, many of us have experienced the re-traumatization just being in our own communities, because many of the caregivers were so traumatized and stressed and overextended that their parenting or their caregiving was not compassionate. So many of us have wounds from that. And so I connect that and see that it's extremely critical for anyone, but I think for us it's even the more important to have a compassion practice, and it can only start with ourselves. So
sorry, Dee.
Go jump in.
Add about I remember reading about how they were saying compassion is important because it I think it promotes meaningful connections, facilitate problem solving, and improves your health and well-being. And that's all that you were just saying, and how it's the core.
Yes.
It's the core of to your healing. And it's once you feel like you're not being judged, and that's just the opening for healing there, and you can just free to, I guess, the person, once she admitted, hey, that was raped, admitted all these things, and that's where that healing comes. So it's just like it takes the top off something, and it just erupts. So
I'm loving that. I'm loving that.
Putting aside judgment and refusing to turn away from those challenging situations.
Absolutely. And you know what just pinged off right there? I was just getting that juicy hit right there, like woo. Intimacy, that because of the compassion, right, then I feel safe. I feel safe to come to a Grace and Gratitude, another family Hearth circle where Grace and Gratitude are sharing these tidbits, right, these pearls. And again, for me, I have had that sensitivity where, wow, I've asked for help, but when I didn't feel as an empath the compassion in the space, then guess what? I stayed clammed,
Shuts down.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
you start shutting down.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
that. Yeah, yeah. And what does that do? When you're shutting down, you're suppressing those emotions, and it's going to become what we always talk about, the trapped trauma.
That's right. Right. The seeds of illness and inflammation and all those things, right? So there goes that connection. Boom.
Exactly. From even with myself personally, the frozen shoulder. What's all this from? That was that resentment and feeling overwhelmed and taken advantage of in my current position as a social worker, not being heard. And I say, hey, I need some help. It's 121 caseload here. I have people that need some assistance so I can help others, but care for myself while I'm caring for others.
This is so beautiful. So you asked for help, so that gets to the next question Joseph has for us about asking for help. Perfect. Go ahead, Joseph.
How does asking for help support our mental health and spiritual well-being?
Well, as I was just hearing my sister say, she did ask for help. And so I think that on one part, our mindfulness, when we're in our healthy, mindful practices, asking for help is a sign of, self-advocacy. And so many of us, as you just said, have asked for help. And that's what I really wanted to put out, not to play the victim, but to put out to those who may not really understand. For someone's like ourselves who have lived experience and have not been in the closet about our mental health journey. And I, for one, have been very public about it, sharing my story on multiple Facebook pages. And what I'll say is that I have asked for help. And as a recovering workaholic and adult child of an alcoholic with, tendencies to overgive and compensate for others out of codependency, when asking for help became for my family something that was going to actually, be the difference between us being in the car, unsheltered, sheltered, like it became where I had to learn how to get over those childhood trauma responses, which was panic. I didn't feel I could trust anyone really. So if I couldn't bail myself out or my family out, I literally was deer in headlights. So it was difficult hearing from people, Dee-Dee, you got to ask for help, almost chastising me. And so that sent me into another, trauma response, which was to kind of insulate from being chastised. And then I realized, well, I do need to ask for help. And then I had to learn that asking for help is a strength, that this isn't, a sentence by God to kill me, but the ego experienced it totally different. So I've learned that it is important to ask for help, and it is critical to be in safe community and asking for help. I've had experience asking for help and being re-traumatized, and my family seeing it, right? I'm kind of silent, but my kids are going, wow, what's the use of asking for help? And then, the people, stigmatize you. So my children actually got to see that. So I had to learn the discerning route, that I don't think we do a service to just say, don't go ask for help. Many of us have done that, and people have rejected us, have made fun of us even. So many things I've seen and witnessed and experienced on my own. So I'm not speaking from something that is from Hollywood. I'm talking about real experience. So I do believe that it is important, and it is also important to have the self-esteem, to develop the self-esteem and to maintain it, because that's where our inward work is, so that you are attracting dear ones who actually are beloved community. They're not energy vampires or on their own traumatic reactionary path where they're wounding you, hurt people. And so I'll say this, I was surprised to find out, that in a lot of faith-based communities, many of us don't know how to love one another. We can quote what love means. That's an intellectual scenario, but to actually walk it out that was where I saw so many parishioners coming and going, kind of like a merry-go-round. They would come and go. And I think many times it was because they were trying to get a need met. They had asked for help, and they kind of get washed back out, and then they come back in out of desperation. And, it's just, I think, an area where we can develop and say, like you said, here's some tools. When beloveds are coming to us for support, I think it's important to assess, can I support that person, or would I be injuring them? If I didn't call back, tomorrow, am I going to, be injuring them? So should I commit to that? I think all of those things come into play when we're thinking about, seeking help, being a safe person. Am I available? And I'll end this, just not to toot your horn, but I'm grateful to report that our family now has a family partner. Cynthia and I met through a workplace, career setting, and it was just the grace of God that we realized that we had so much in common, and it was just this natural connection. And from there, I realized that I was actually getting mental health support, the very thing that Brave Families is about, which is families helping families. Which I think the times and days that we're in, you may not be able to get a mental health appointment, maybe, 2 months out. What's the plan in between those 8 weeks? How are you going to support yourself? Well, the connection I have with you, Cynthia, and my family, we, it's not every day, but we're able to text you and say, hey, we have this coming up, a court date coming up, lift us up in prayer. And it's more than prayer that we get back, but that's what's being our mental health support right now. And me asking for help became just inviting a friend into my life. And so that's literally my personal testimony, and I'm sharing that, and I'll turn it over to you if you have anything that pops up before we wrap up.
Well, actually, I just want to say I'm just grateful and honored because actually you've helped me more than you know, just with this, when you said this in-between plan, because of the these couple of months since March, that what I've been going through personally with been overworked, stressed out, overwhelmed, fighting through depression and anxiety, or being overworked. And you helped with a journal prompt. It's just what opened my eyes. It was a part of my cognitive behavioral therapy. So I appreciate that, and I think that just kind of opened those floodgates of me knowing what abundance is and how it feels to just be an advocate for yourself. And I didn't have to sit and suffer alone and private anymore. I had finally connected with someone that had a compassionate heart, and you take your time with me and just encourage me and motivated me to keep going. From this, just the simplest thing. If I told you, like today, I went for a hike, you were so excited about that. So that in itself, I appreciate it. So I think just some, like we were thinking of saying, best practices about how those tips.
Yes.
That is one. Just a simple thing. Just say, hey, can I have a conversation with you? And just being honest with the person that you trust.
Yes.
And that's not going to judge you. And that could be from in the church. I've been born and raised in the church, but my biggest help came outside of the church, sitting at the beach, you know? So don't think that you have to do those traditional ways anymore of when asking for help. It could be the person you least expect would come out, and that's would be God sending that person to you. So you have to open our eyes and hearts to that, and just taking that one step, and God to take the rest.
I'm complete. I feel so grateful just to hear those words. I think, it just comes down to that trust, and like you said, taking that first step in asking for help, finding someone that you can trust and who's not going to stigmatize you, because we're worthy. This is the piece that I'm motivated after just hearing your beautiful sharing, is to remember that in our asking for help, it's actually a sign of strength. It actually says that we are in touch with the fact that we we have value and we have worth, intrinsic, not having anything to do with a degree or any achievement nor accomplishment. It's our intrinsic, inherent birthright. And so to ask for help is to acknowledge that we know that we're valuable, so much so that we, could make use of support by those who are available and who have the ability to be of loving support. And so it's a real sign of resilience, and all that said. So with that, I am so grateful that we did this pop in, and also had an opportunity to hear some great sharing by these questions, answering these questions. And stay tuned. We'll be organizing more grace and gratitude opportunities to connect with us. And at this time, we can be reached through an email, which is rootedandgroundedbloomingjoy@gmail.com. You can email us. And again, it's Cynthia B. Taylor and Dee-Dee B. And Joseph's on the handle with us, representing grace and gratitude and brave families rising above. So please be in touch, and stay tuned for more to come. We love you. We appreciate you. And truly, as the slogan reminds us, we are not alone, and we are worthy.
Yes. Peace and blessings.
Peace and blessings.